What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we actually got a top producer interview with you guys coming in, a monster at final expense telesales. As you guys are wanting to actually master the art of selling insurance over the phone, we have none other than Jay Siskin. Did what, 100 apps last month?
100, I think it was over 100. I can't remember the exact number, but I think it was over 100. Yeah,
Bro, that's nuts. Well, thanks for coming on here, man. Welcome to the podcast.
absolutely. Happy to help. I used to do podcasting when I was working in sports journalism, so I have a I have a interest in them.
There you go, man. Dude, how'd you get into the life insurance space, dude? Because I feel like you just popped out of nowhere, which is awesome. And tell us a little bit about your story on getting into the life insurance space.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm still fairly new to the business. I've only been in it for 2 months, but uh, I have a small background in sales. So before I got into insurance, I worked inbound sales remotely for selling security systems with Vivint Smart Home. So that's really my first chapter in sales. So um, once I got into that, you know how it is. Once you get your first sale, it's a rush. You enjoy it, and
Yeah.
that was a fun experience. Unfortunately, I got laid off, so that kind of forced me to look elsewhere into the sales spectrum, and then I just by God's grace stumbled upon the insurance industry, and I figured it'd be a great opportunity to one not only help myself but help others. And I'm truly thankful that I found a spot with David, because I mean that wasn't my first choice. Thankfully, I um ended up with David, but I
Oh, it
was
wasn't your first choice?
yeah. So
That's
this
nuts,
is kind of
bro.
funny story. It's kind of funny story. So you know how in the insurance industry there's a lot of MLMs and all that.
For
So
sure, man.
and I got tricked into one of them because I was so new to the industry. I didn't know what I was doing. And so I got onboarded with, one of the, known MLMs, and
Yeah.
I quickly got into it, 2 weeks into it. It just felt weird. I wasn't really going through training and
Was
you
it like
know,
were they pushing to recruit a ton or what was going on?
yeah, they were really pushing me to recruit. And I was like, what? I just want to help people. And um really harped on me buying like old leads. They didn't want me starting with fresh leads. And I was like, that's that's odd. And so I was like, I went because I jumped on with them and they were my first choice. So I'm like a man of honor. I'm like, I told them first I want to, follow through with them because I already, gave them my word. And so
Yeah.
I tried to go through with it, and I quickly realized it was a mistake, and I pivoted back to David. I was like, David, I emailed him, David, I made a mistake. Can you please take me back? And then so thankfully he did, and then I got onboarded into the telesales side of, I was going to start as a broker, but they during my transition they were implementing the career side for the free lease program, and I jumped into that, and I've been hitting the ground running ever since.
Dude, that's awesome. So how many years do you have in the sales like tell it sounds like you've been in the sales like the telesales space for a little bit.
Yeah, so I worked telesales before insurance for close to a year. So I was already used to working from home, working, telesales side. So that's really what I wanted to do. I mean, I kind of looked into doing face to face, but I didn't I didn't want to get into,
Yeah.
driving, wasting time and it's like stuff like that. I'd rather if I'm gonna, you know, get, turned down or stuff like that, I'd rather be on the phone. That way I can, go back to like dialing people and, not waste my time driving from house to house. So, and plus that's where all my experience was. And then, I mean,
What
my
did
sales experience was not insurance. So I
For
had to
sure.
quickly learn, on the go, transition from one industry to the other.
Yeah, man. What made you choose life insurance? Like what'd you see that made you want to jump into this industry specifically?
Well, one, firsthand, it's pretty simple to get into. You
Yeah.
really, as long as you have, a good head on your shoulders to study and, pass the exam. I mean, it's pretty, simple from there. And, one, the income opportunity, yes, there's a great potential as long as you put the work in, but number two, I just wanted to find something where I can, help people, man. I my biggest thing with me is, not only do I want to make an impact for my family, but I want to make an impact for the people around me in my community. So, and, I thought, insurance, life insurance, especially, being able to help people, find coverage, find that peace of mind that they're looking for. Cause, in this industry, man, they talk to a lot of people. And,
Yep.
if I can help them, develop a relationship with them and kind of you know, that ease that burden of them, overthinking about stuff and develop, those connections. That's all I care about.
Yeah. What made you choose Final Expense over any other type of selling life insurance?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I didn't know, excuse my language, I didn't know shit about insurance.
For sure.
And
Yeah.
so all my knowledge really came from, researching, guys like David. I stumbled upon like people like Julian, like all, and I believe Cody as well, and really what they harped on was, final expense. And I was like, well, I'll look into it more. And then when I stumbled upon David, I know one of his videos is, he tells, aspiring agents or even, older agents, focus on one product.
Yep.
And so I thought final expense would be the perfect, entry into sales as far as insurance. And
Yep.
then maybe later down the road, like branch into other, types of insurance like health, annuities, all that. But I thought final expense was, a perfect opportunity because one, if God forbid the world ends again, there's still going to be people who are getting older. There's still people who are going to have a source of income with Social Security
Yeah.
and all that.
For
So
sure.
I'm really always going to be working no matter if, the world ends, as long as it doesn't blow up or anything.
That's it, man. Yes, sir. If
Yeah.
the world ends, bro, it's like everybody's done. It's not just one industry.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, man. So that's dope. So you got into the Final Expense space. You're selling for David. Bro, talk through your like how do you get a fast start as a new agent? Because a lot of people want to push out the learning curve. And how I like to say it, like if you want to be successful, imagine it being you have to make 5,000 or 10,000 mistakes. A lot of people just want to wait to make those mistakes. They take 3, 5, 10 years to do it. But then the people who are really successful, like you, um, come in and they make those mistakes really fast. Talk through like a new agent wanting to come into the business and have a fire start. Obviously, 100K is not typical, guys, but for you to come in and them to be able to hit the ground running, what are some tips that you could give them or just some advice that you would give a new agent?
You have to have a really good environment around you. And what I mean by this, you have to have an IMO, that will, focus on helping you and provide you the resources that you truly need, not just
Yeah.
like push you to, recruit anything. So,
What are some of those resources that you think?
oh, yeah, resources like, training, uh, scripts, access to, videos like what David has at his, at his disposal, like little things like that. And also access to, coaches who are actually going to take the time to, you know, coach you, listen to your calls, listen to your, recorded role plays and coach you on little things, not just like the like big things. And so, I mean, it's coming from an athletic background, teams, you can be as talented as you can be, but if you don't have a good locker room, if you don't have a good coach,
Yep.
that shit don't mean anything if you don't have
Yep.
it. If you have talent, I mean, that's
Yeah.
talent's everything, but if you have a good mentor, if you have a good, as I say, locker room and environment, you can really be successful. And really, what I try to tell people, who always reach out to me via Slack or even on, David's school website, like, uh, you know, I kind of think of myself as an anomaly, and I work my ass off, but you can't compare yourself to me. You have to control what you control.
Yeah.
Because if get in the industry, and you see me doing these numbers and you don't get those numbers, and you get negative thoughts, and get down on yourself, you're gonna fall flat on your face, and you're gonna end up like all the other, people who, fall out of this industry. And what I really tried to do is I focused on stuff that I could control, doing role plays, dialing as much as I can once I got on, onto the team, and like stuff like that. And if I don't get a sale, I don't get a sale. There's always another opportunity. And I know, mm, this industry is very exciting, but it's also it's very hard to uh, find yourself in it, because
Yeah.
people think they can do it, and then once they get out there and they start talking to people, and you get these objections, and people hanging up on them, and they just ultimately give up. And it's you really have to keep pushing forward, because
Yeah.
even though I get 20 sales a week, I get 80 to 100 no's. You have to push those to the side, and
Yeah.
control what you can control, and then whether it's sales, preparing to get into the industry, like stuff like that.
Yeah. That's really good, and I really like what you said. Some people are actually more talented and definitely can be, and but that doesn't always result in success. It's funny that you said that because I don't know if you're a basketball fan, but I was I was looking at this article, and it was talking about like breaking down why the big three of like Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden never worked out as a trio, because there were when they came together, there were a ton of people that were like, dude, this might be the most talented team ever to assemble together, but it didn't work. They were trash. And now they're all in different teams, and it's like, what if, what if, what if? But then there's other teams that you see that are like OKC. Obviously, there's good people on that team, but they're coming together. You see an 11 seed in the March Madness tournament, and it's just like, what in the world is Sweet 16, and people come together? I think the culture is huge. If somebody's wanting, like, that's listening to this right now, and you talked about you got to control the things that you can control. You're not going to be like, you are an anomaly. What are tangible things, or like things that you are doing on a day-to-day basis that people could replicate to be able to have similar success, or at least like see success in their eyes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you gotta you gotta listen, and when I say listen, you gotta go back and listen to your calls, listen to your role plays that you record, and try to, you can coach yourself. There's when you go back and listen to stuff, you're gonna pick up on things that you wish you would have said, or you probably should have said, stuff like that. And then when you find a team, or an IMO that's going to give you the resources,
Yeah.
you truly have to take advantage of them. you know with Dave's training, there's so many courses that you can dive into. I mean, I ate that crap up, man.
Yeah.
I was listening to calls at the gym. Instead of listening to music, I would just like listen to calls over and over again, try to get pick up on little things, what they would do, like on saying certain situations, because I mean each salesperson is different. So I mean and like you said in basketball, if you go back and watch film, you're going to pick up on things that you wish you would have done at that moment in time. You
Yeah.
know, shooting a certain shot, or passing the ball to an open guy that you probably should have made.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that you have to study. and
Hmm.
and another thing with me is, with the resource that I got when I jumped off um, David's team, is that first week when I was, getting new leads fed to me. I was supposed to get 50, but I was only getting like 13 or 14. But what I did was I took the initiative, like, hey, just give me old leads and let me go through them. And so, you have to take initiative, like stuff like that. Go
Yeah.
through old stuff, go treat it as new stuff, like stuff like that. And then
Yeah.
ask questions. Don't sit back and, you know,
Yeah.
and just, let things go. You have to, you have to take the initiative to learn.
Yeah.
And, especially, for someone like myself, I didn't know what I was doing in this industry,
Yeah.
but I knew I had people around me who did. And so, I wanted to listen to them. I wanted to, soak up as much as I can. And, it's, and what I come to find out is really what it comes down to is you don't have to learn like every single little detail of like insurance carriers. You just really don't have to, one, nail down the script that you're working with. And what it comes down to is you really have to relate to people. That's
Yeah.
what it comes to. If you want to truly help people, if you really, want to make it in an industry like insurance, helping people, you have to want to help people.
Yeah.
You can't just view it as dollar signs. The dollar signs is, the little picture. The bigger picture is helping people. Because the
Yeah.
more people you help, that dollar signs get bigger. And so if you just keep focusing on dollar signs, you really you miss the bigger picture.
No, that's huge. Guys, if you're listening to when you're listening to this, there's a few things that really come to my head, like when you're saying this stuff that I really want to key in on. The first one is taking initiative. A lot of people think that it's going to be handed to them. You're like, dude, you were probably in every right entitled to 50 leads because that's what they were told. There needs to be expectations met on that side, but that's irrelevant in this situation. Like you took initiative and you're like, dude, let's figure it out. Let's problem solve. I think like to be successful as a life insurance agent, you have to constantly be thinking, how do I solve this problem instead of giving excuses? Like like the bag that you're holding, how heavy is it? The bag of excuses. Like how long are you going to keep holding these excuses in? Yeah, he could have just sat on the sideline and waited for 50 new leads to come in, but you took initiative. I think that's a trait of a successful agent. And another thing is like you got to specialize and really understand people to be successful. It's the insurance game, it's irrelevant. Like you're helping them with insurance, but if you can really get fully understand persuasion and understand helping the person in their situation, regardless of the outcome, right? Like you said, 80% of your people are saying no, but 20% are saying yes, and you're doing the volume that you are, the outcome is irrelevant. If you can detach yourself completely from that and do the right thing every time and have a system and process that you follow every time, you will see the success. The numbers will work out in your favor. And so I really like that you said that. Um, so let's go into more tactical things. So when you're dialing in age leads, you said go back through the old stuff. When you're going through the old leads, what's kind of your mindset with it? And then are you using the same intro as a new lead, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, right now mainly I'm working like new stuff
Yeah.
because I've developed such a good footing for myself that Dave's telesales team that's led by Tim, he's just feeding me new leads,
Yeah.
and so I haven't really gone back to old leads and since really my first 2 weeks. But my first 2 weeks, I was just treating them like new ones, and there's a reason why they weren't sold. Going back, you have to figure out, why they weren't sold. I mean, maybe it was the agent, they didn't like them. Maybe it was because a certain carrier wasn't, available, like Sika, like they had like congestive heart failure, and they weren't, necessarily looking for a 2-year wait period
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And so you really have to, have that source of, old leads. Once you get them, you have to dive into them. So what I was doing, I was obviously, dialing them, but while I was dialing them, I was texting them. I had like you know, a template of like of a text that way I could send to, those old leads. I just, obviously input their name and I would put it in, you filled out this form, uh, at the date that they filled out. That way, it lines up with the text conversation that was already sent to me. So, and I was just trying to, get his, I was baiting the hook, I was casting the line. If you don't, if you go fishing, if you don't use your fishing rod, you're not going to get any fish. And so, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to be efficient and with those leads and, trying to get connections as quick as possible. Because I mean, I knew at that time, when I was starting out, the Facebook algorithm for my end, it takes time to develop. So that's why, the new ones were, slowly coming in. So
Yeah.
was just treating the old ones like as new ones, because I mean there's a reason why they weren't sold. Or
Yep.
you just have to figure that out. And if I tried to, develop a rhythm where I was, texting them, sending out mass text to all of them, and then, going through the dialer system as well. That way, I'd have as many opportunities as I can to talk to people.
Yeah.
And then if I got someone, texting me, I ask them if they're available now, or I just set an appointment with them at, so I can talk to them. You just
Yeah.
have to be efficient with your time, man.
Yeah. That's really good. And picking up like the older stuff. Obviously, you're gonna work the cream of the crop now because you know you're closing consistently, and you earn that at the end of the day. Like not that's just not just given, that's earned, which is dope. But I think what I really like is that you went back and you're just like, dude, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna do what it takes. I'm gonna text them. I'm gonna call them multiple times. I think one thing that I see a lot of new agents do is I think they get into their head too much, like so much. And it's like there's so much emotion involved. They do 50 dials and they don't get a contact, or they do 60, 70 dials and they're dialing semi-aged leads or maybe even new leads and they're not getting the contacts. What's your mindset going into dialing, and what's kind of your thought process there?
Yeah, so there's I my mindset with when it comes to sales or even getting pickups, I don't give a damn if I don't get the sale when I talk to that person. If I get too emotional, and 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 you know this, if you get too emotional in sales, you're one, you're gonna get burnt out, and two,
Yep.
you're you're just ultimately gonna give up, because if you just focus on the negatives, and if you get too high on the positives, you're just ultimately just it's not going to work out. So
Yeah.
with dialing, if I don't get an answer, I don't get an answer. I just move on to the next one. Every single lead, whether you have 50, 100, 200, 5, each one is another opportunity to, one, talk to somebody, or and get that fish. And so and then when I do get them on the phone, if I don't get the sale, oh well, I got someone else to talk to. If that person isn't on sale, I got someone else to talk to. I don't care, if it takes, you know, 1 hour straight of, straight dial tone to get someone, so be it. I'm gonna do my best on that phone call, and if it turns out I can't help them, I can't help them. And then,
Yeah.
I move on to the next one. You really, what new people need to focus on, they need to focus it on a hour by hour, day by day basis, because they get too caught up on looking at the sales figures on all these YouTube videos, and they're like, damn, I'm not making 100 grand in 1 month, or I'm not making 200 grand in 2 months, and they get into it, and start talking to people, and they don't get a sale one day, or they keep getting hung up on, and they just turn into negative Nancy.
Yeah.
And once you start down the road of negative thinking, it is so hard to turn back. And
Yeah.
you have to teach your mind. I mean, you have to be. It's like working out. You have to, in playing sports, you have to be physically good shape, but you also have to be really good mentally as well. And so, and once you start down a path of negative thinking, it's gonna affect your whole mindset, and it's
Yeah.
gonna and people on the other line are gonna pick up on that. It's gonna affect your tone, it's gonna affect your energy, and I'm not gonna let the previous person I talked to, I'm not gonna let them affect me.
Where'd that mindset come from? Like where'd you develop that?
But that's a good question. I'll say this. Growing up, in I didn't get the greatest hand dealt to me. I'll say that. Um, so when I was growing up, I battled severe depression, and what it started from was my mom passing away when I was really young, and so during that time, times now, it's being emotional as a male. It's more more accepted. Back then, males, like, you're supposed to bottle everything up. And so
Yeah.
as I've gotten older, I started to well, when I was younger, I was always negative thinking, I was letting it affect me, in
Yeah.
my schooling and at sports. And so once I got out of school, I really tried to focus on, developing a better mindset, turning that negative energy and turning it into positive energy, like taking my time and, using that negative energy to, you know, be an influence,
Yeah.
because once I, got on a right footing, I tried to use my story, to, help the others. I started talking to, kids at, at the YMCA Boys and Girls Club, with, who are, youth groups, try to, younger groups, I should say, like 12 to
Yeah.
like 15
That's
year olds,
dope.
not, yeah, and try to, turn my story into, something, someone else can relate to, and, and it tell them it's okay to not be okay. And so when, when I first, got out of school, I was so depressed because, I love school because I was around so many people, and,
Yeah.
once you get on your own, you feel alone, and it sucks. And so you don't know what you want to do with your life. And so, I was working, in a really exciting field in sports journalism, and then that quickly fell apart because there wasn't really a career path for me because there were so many there wasn't not enough seats at the table in that industry. And so that kind of affected my negative thinking. And then I really I really started to turn it around um when my aunt got cancer. And
Mm.
so when she was diagnosed with cancer, I was like, I really need to turn my energy around and really turn my negative thinking around, because I need to be a support system for her. I can't let her, feel, my sadness, my negative energy, because I need to help her get through that fight. Because if she starts thinking negatively and all that, she's not going to win. And so that was really the first step. I really, the first true step I took into developing a better mindset for myself. And I really just went running with it. And, I tried to take it into, um, work, sales, helping others.
Yeah.
It's really, it was really that first true step when, my aunt got cancer. And because I had to be a rock for her, like she was a
Yeah.
rock for me when my mom passed. So that was really the first step.
Jeez, bro. Dude, thanks for sharing that, man. That's deep, and that's a lot, dude. And it shows like you don't have to have all the right cards dealt. Sometimes that those are the best cards, to be honest. Like obviously it sucks, but it's cool to see you turn that into something really special. And it's cool to I appreciate you sharing that for everybody listening, like for you. Because it's like, dude, no, there's no excuses. That's just the reality, right? Like the whatever situation you're in, it's a lot, and I think go through it and don't just wipe it through, like wipe it off and just kind of sweep it under the rug and keep going. Like deal with that, but then also don't let that bring you down. Too like
Exactly.
don't, yeah. I think that's really good, bro. A lot of people could take a lot of stuff from
Yeah,
that, and
exactly.
I
Yeah,
have
I
a
mean,
lot of
you it
respect for
really
that.
you can't feel sorry for yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, if when you're starting out, if you would have had one bad day and you start feeling sorry for yourself, do you think you would have been in this situation you are now?
No, 100% not.
Exactly. And that's really what I really I truly needed to do. Because when I had that mindset of feeling sorry for myself, why were, others around me being so successful, and I was, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. It's like, man, it's like, why do I have to go through that? And so
Yeah.
it really, that mindset really developed into a mindset of controlling what I can control. I can control my, effort every single day. I can control, when I, wake up and start working. I mean, because a lot of people in this industry, they fail because they don't work hard enough, and they don't work, you know,
Yep.
the right amount of hours. They want to start working at, noon, and, work until 3 o'clock. You simply can't do
Yeah, so
that. See,
I actually wanted that's exactly what I wanted to go into, dude. So what is your schedule as a top producer? Like what's that look like? Talk us through that a little bit, just like throughout your day.
yeah, I mean, it varies day to day, because I mean, one call can turn into, a 3 hour call.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but the schedule I stick to is 9 to 6:30, cut off at 7. And so really I feel like that schedule 5 days a week. Sometimes I work Saturday, working 9 to 6:30, 7 is, prime opportunity to, you know, attack each, time zone in this country because I get leads from all over the place. So, I really needed to get in a routine or find a routine that, best suited for me. And so when I first got into working with Dave's team, um, I asked Tim, I was like, who was, the head of the telesales team, I was like, what kind of schedule do I need to work? I don't care about working more than 40 hours a week. What do you recommend I need to do? And he was like, you need to work like 9 to 7. I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. And then, I mean, I've missed one weekday out of the past since I started on January 8th. And the only reason why I missed that weekday was because I was flying down to Houston for Dave's Roadshow. And so, I mean, I've literally worked every single, weekday since I've started, and I work anywhere between 45 to 55 hours. Now that I've gotten really good footing for myself, I've really tried to cut back on Saturdays. If I work Saturday, it's really on an appointment base only, not like, like dialing people. But, I work anywhere at minimum 45 hours. And really, I probably haven't worked 45 hours in a while because I'm really pushing 48, 49, 50 because, I want to maximize my opportunities as much as possible. And
Yeah, man.
I've seen people on our telesales team, they fall out because they want to start working, they want to sleep in and, start working at 11 and, stop working at, 3 o'clock. And you can't make it in this industry just working 4 or 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
It's just not possible.
Yeah, so that's really interesting that you say that, because it's just a reality, and it's funny. This is the such funny part, and I know you didn't mean this intentionally, but you're like, I work 45, 50 hours a week, and it's like, dude, that's standard for like a regular person. And it's funny because like specifying that, it's like that is a lot, right? But then when that's standard for outside, and like if you were to work somewhere else, but I think like so many people fail out of the industry because they actually don't work. Like they don't actually put in those hours. If you were to work a like a real full-time 40 hour, 45, 50 hour, whatever it is, 50-hour week, you would be way more successful than you are right now, right? Like for people watching, like you see success because you actually work during those times. So let's define work, right? So what is working in selling final expense telesales over the phone? Like what does that practically look like for you?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, you can't just sit there. I mean, if you're just going to sit there, I mean, I couldn't imagine just sitting there because I mean, you're not gonna get anything done. So working telesales side, I mean, I know face to face is a little bit different because you have to drive, and so that's part of the work. But telesales, you have to take advantage of every minute, every second, of the day. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I take one 30, 45 minute break. I mean, I'll take like 2 minute breaks in between, use the restroom or get a drink. But really during those like 8, 9 hours, I'm either dialing or texting. I mean, if I'm not doing that, then I'm doing myself a disservice. Like if you're not taking advantage, like I said, of the resources in front of you, like a because if you got an influx of leads that you can use, I mean you have to contact them. You know, it's whether it's dialing, texting, you have to be efficient in your work, and you can work as hard as you want, but if you're not taking advantage of the time that you have at your disposal, then I mean you're gonna fall flat. And I mean a lot of people just want to sit there and let people come to them, you have to go get it. It's
Yeah.
just it's that plain and simple. If you don't go get it, there's other people waiting to replace you
Yeah.
who will.
So how do you work leads effectively? Like what's kind of your cadence with leads that come in? Obviously you're working pre-booked appointments consistently, but like what is working the leads that you're getting effectively look like?
Yeah. So if I get if I'm so mainly right now I work on like an appointment basis, but if that day I find I don't have like a lot of appointments, I really tackle.
How many appointments of your appointments are actually showing up, would you say, of the ones that set?
So I probably get anywhere between 80 to 100 appointments a week on off Dave's telesales system that they've implemented. So 80 to 100, I probably get 35 to 40 who show up, and then I close anywhere between 40 to 50% of those. And so I get maybe a handful of, dialing out leads who, that come in. And so, because I mean, a lot of the time the leads that come to me, because I mean, with my close rate, I get an influx of leads, but a lot of times, because I'm talking so much to people, there are leads that I haven't even touched. And so those go to, down the road to, to the newer guys on the team so they can, handle the old leads, like, because I was in that position as well. So,
Yeah.
like, so 80 to 100 a week, depending on, so 45, 30, 40 to 50% show up, which is pretty good, as from
It's
what I've been
huge,
told.
bro.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I close about 40 to 50% of those. And then if, if I'm in a bad day when it comes to like appointments, if they're not showing up or anything, as soon as a lead comes in, I'm dialing them immediately, and if they're able to talk, and then so be it. I mean, sometimes when I dial someone, they're like, "Oh, I'm at the doctor's," or they're just filling out. I was like, "Okay, well, we'll talk later." But as soon as the lead comes in, you have to dial that sucker immediately because they're filling out so much information on Facebook leads that goes out to, several, other people. I mean, you have to be quick as possible. If you're not
Yeah.
dialing that person within 5 minutes, then, the pickup rate, for them, the chances are it goes down. So as soon as you get a lead, you, and call it immediately. Now, if it calls them in like 3 o'clock in the morning, then that's a little bit different. But
Yeah.
during your work time, 9 to 6, 9 to 7, as soon as you get a lead, you need to dial that sucker.
Yeah, so if the lead comes in and they set an appointment for say tomorrow, right? If they come in later tonight, and they set the appointment and you're still like technically working during that time, are you calling them right away or are you waiting for that appointment time?
So if they set an appointment, then I won't bother them because I mean, usually when people set appointments, those are the people who are truly interested. Like that's what I've come to find out. Like they're requesting my time. So I mean sometimes they don't show up, but I truly I love people setting appointments because it shows me that they truly, need something in place, or, want to, you know, find something better or something like that. And then if I get a notification, of an appointment, if I mean sometimes if someone reschedules, if I'm working, in the next hour, if I see an appointment, I maybe shoot them a text like, "Hey, I have an appointment spot that opened up, right now. Are you free right now?" And if they don't text back, or, say they're not, then I just let it go and I'll call them at the time they've requested. But really, I don't contact them until, really it's their appointment time, or, during that work day.
What's your intro for when they set an appointment and you're calling them?
Oh, the intro is a script that Tim and them implemented.
It's
I
just a
don't.
regular intro, even on an
Yeah.
appointment.
Yeah, it's just a regular intro. I treat it as if it's a new lead that just came in, and then,
Cool.
I remind them, or like, and then at the end I'm like, "Hey, you set an appointment with me for this morning," and, as a, human, I'm like asking them how they're doing, because when I don't ask how people how they're doing if it's like a new lead, because I want to jump straight into, figuring out, their story, if like if they're looking for covers like for themselves or whatnot. But if it's appointment or if I've already talked, like made a connection with them via text or something, then I tried to, do a more casual approach to, kind of ease the tension, like ask them how they're doing and whatnot. Because I mean, if it's not someone you've already connected with, if you ask them how they're doing, they're just gonna push it off like, oh, I'm fine. Like because they think you really don't care, but I mean I really do. But I mean I just stick to the script really.
No, that's good. Cool. A lot of people ask that question, so I was curious because I've never really worked appointments only. So I was curious to see like, okay, what's your thought process on that and how you're doing that. Um, so when you're calling leads, you're obviously you're not calling as much, right? But let's say you're outbound dialing. You're using like the Kixie dialer, I'm assuming.
Yep.
So you're running on that. And so
If you're not using a Kixie, then
dude, that's what I'm saying.
yeah. It's just, you got. Yeah, I mean, if I was a broker and if I wasn't using Kixie, I would I'd probably go insane because I mean that is such a that we talked about resources. That
Yeah.
is such a huge resource.
You gotta have Kixie. You gotta be using Kixie 100%. So are you texting leads while you're on the phone?
Yep, 100%. I mean, if because so when leads come in, we have like an automated system, AI system. We call her Grace. That's what Tim named her, and I call her my sister now since
Love it.
since since she's so helpful, and she'll like because when they fill out an ad, they get like a confirmation code, and she confirms that code to them, and asks them to confirm their zip code, and you know, a lot of times I respond like, yeah, that's my zip code. And if I see that they respond, I want to jump in because I just in case if I'm talking to someone and the call doesn't go anywhere, I want to get in touch with that person as soon as possible because if
So are
you
you
lose their
letting the system kind of text them or you jumping in there?
yeah, and so I let the system text them at first. Obviously, if I'm like hammered down, super busy, I'll just let the system play out with itself. But once once the system, generates that first intro text and, gets a response from that lead, I try to jump in as soon as possible because if they're responding now, keeping their attention, um, glued to your phone is so important because once they put that phone down, you may not be able to reach them again.
Yep.
And I mean this. It's called speed to lead. Speed to text. If you got their attention now, take advantage of it
Yep.
because you may not get it again.
Yeah, 100%. So you're texting them to be able to pretty much like you're texting them back and forth, keeping them engaged. What kind of questions are you asking them when you're texting them?
So once like the intro is over, like I jump in like, okay, great. Thank you for, confirming that. And I'm also like doing this while I'm talking to people. So I mean
Yeah.
not a lot of people can do that. So but I'll ask them like, great, or I'll say great, thank you, and then ask them, are you looking for coverage for yourself, a loved one, or both? That way, it starts the conversation and they're like, they're looking for myself. Okay, okay, great. And then I'll ask them like, oh, okay. Do you currently have anything, in place? I'm literally taking the script, the beginning part, and just asking those questions and, having a conversation over text. I won't ever get to a point where I quote them over text because I need them to have a reason to, pick up my phone call.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah, for
that's another,
sure.
that's another, that's another reason why people, don't have a really good pickup rate or that, they, fall flat on their faces because they quote people over text and then they don't give them a reason that that lead a person or that lead a reason to pick up your phone call.
Yeah.
And so I never get that too deep into the conversation, but really I'm just taking the beginning parts of the scripts, figuring out if it's for them or someone else, confirming information if they're a smoker, like stuff like that. That way, once I do talk to them, process is so much smoother and quicker. That way I can just focus on, building rapport with them as opposed to, asking, health questions that
Yeah,
way,
so you're texting back and forth, obviously, and then when's the time that you're like, hey, let's set up a time to talk? Are you saying that or you just kind of texting until that next one's off the phone and then just calling them right away?
Yeah, so it really depends on like how long the current call is going. So if I know that the current call is going to go longer, I'm going to do an application, then I'll get to a point in the text conversation like, I'll thank them for, answering my questions and tell them, it makes my job in the process a whole lot smoother and easier. And then I'll quickly glance to my calendar because I have three screens, so that way I can, maximize, everything as much as I can. So I'll quickly glance at my calendar and confirm their time zone, and I'll give them three times to, that day or even the next day. That way, I'm doing like a soft close for appointment because I want them to choose a time to talk to me. Not like I'm not going to ask them like, "Oh, do you want to talk at 2 o'clock?" Like, no, I don't want to talk at 2 o'clock. I give them three times, like, which one works best for you. That way
Yep.
they pick. And if none of them work, I just give them three more times until I got the fish on the hook.
There you go. I love it, dude. So when somebody's like, let's talk through objections for a second. So if you're calling somebody and they're like, yeah, I already got coverage, what's kind of your how are you responding?
Yeah, I'm like, great. How much coverage are you paying right, or how much coverage are you right now, and how much are you paying? Like, I immediately ask them, and then like, and and then once I get that answer, or if, God forbid they hang up, I just move on to the next one. But really, if I get that objection, I want to figure out what the coverage amount is and how much they're paying, and I want to figure out what type of policy it is. Because one, it could be accidental. Two, it could be a 2 year wait. Because you know how it is in this industry. A lot of people get tricked
Oh
into
yeah.
thinking, yeah, they get tricked into thinking a graded policy is, level first day, or they have a guaranteed issue policy and they think it's, first day, or, they have a policy that's 50% accidental, 50% whole life. That's really only $5,000 in coverage and they're paying $100 a month.
Yep.
So really, you really have to figure that out as quickly as possible. And if it comes down to it, when you call them, they're like, "Oh, I already got coverage." Thanks to anyone. You got to quickly interrupt them. I don't care if I don't care if you have to be rude. I mean, make it as respectful as possible, but quickly interrupt them. And, keep them on the phone. Like, okay, great, 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 great. How much coverage do you currently have? And how much are you paying? Get them to answer that, and then like, okay, what type of policy is it? Is it a graded policy, a 2 year wait? That way you're preparing yourself to figure out, what care you can ultimately put them with, and then you can move into health questions and figure out if you can actually help them because it
Yeah.
may turn out you can't, you know?
Yeah. For sure. No, that's good. So then if you're so that's obviously on there. And then what about if you were to get the like, dude, I didn't even fill that out.
Oh, I'm gonna be honest with you. I rarely get that. Like, like
Really?
the really only times I'll get that is if like if it's a person like it's like a wrong number, like and if it is, I'm not going to waste my time arguing over it. I'll just move on quickly to the next one. Because I mean, sometimes with elderly people, they may forget. I mean, that's going to happen. But I mean, I'm not going to get into a pissing contest to figure out if if they remember or not. If
So
they
so
don't,
you don't get it's rare that you get that objection or the rare that you overcome that.
no, it's rarely if I get that objection. Like, I can't remember. There's like several objections I rarely because it I don't run into it often. So I mean, really, the only one I truly run into on a daily basis is the I need to think about it. And I'm like, okay, what do you need to think about? And they're like, well, it's I don't know if the price. Okay, we can lower the price. And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know we could do that, and like stuff like that. Like really social objections, banking. I really don't run into that. I
So
mean,
yeah, let's talk about that a little bit too. So what's your are you like how are you asking for social? Like are you doing anything specific in that regard?
yeah, I'm just making it conversational. Like I run down the application, like, okay, the phone number that I call, is that the number you want to have on file? And they're like, yeah, okay. And then what's a good email address for you? Like the casual questions, and then they give it to me, and like, okay, then and then I'm like, okay, what's your current address? That way, we have the right address on file when they mail the policy to you, and they give me that. I'm like, okay, thank you for that. And then I just casually ask, okay, next thing I just need to grab from you, what is your social? And I just make it casual as possible, because I mean, a lot of the times these people have already talked to people, they've already given it out, and then I mean, if they do give me an objection, I'm like, I mean, I truly understand, like, the pushback, I don't like to give personal information over the phone either. And, I always tell my grandma to be, cautious of who she talks to as well. But really, really, I need your social, one, because the carrier needs to identify you, to make sure you're an actual person. And two, this carrier, runs a medical and prescription background check on you. And so, and they need to verify if you're approved for coverage or not. So, and they use your social for that. And so, I mean, if I can't use your social, then I can't do an application for you. And I just paint the picture for them. And I'm like, and if they don't want to give it to me, then I mean, then so be it. I move on to the next one, because I have so many opportunities to talk to people, and
Yeah.
if I'll I don't give up that easily, but I'll explain to them like 3, 4, 5 times, and if it doesn't click, I'm like, well, I can't help you until you let me help you. And obviously we have objection handler on the script that's more thorough, but really, really I just poke them in the chest and tell them like, hey, I really need this, because one, they need to identify you, and then two, when you pass away, they need to identify, you know, one, identify you and identify the right person to pay out the benefit to.
Yeah.
So I mean, 9 times out of 10, they truly understand that, and then 1 out of 10, you get, you know, uh, old Billy who doesn't want to, give a social
Yeah,
over.
which is you're not going to get everyone, which is that it just happens, right? What about banking?
I really, I, I honestly haven't had a banking injection probably since my second day, man. Like it really, I truly don't. And really, the what it comes down to is when you're getting banking, you just you need to set you know, get them in the mindset that they are going to pay. So, I mean, we got to make sure, like, yeah, you're not paying anything today, but I need you to know that we need to have a payment method on file to, submit the application.
Do you say
And
that? Do you say like do you preface that at the beginning? Like not the beginning, but like during the script before you actually um get into the application? Like are you prefacing that?
yeah, so before I like start filling it out, like, or as I'm like filling it out in the beginning, like the basic information, like the date of birth, like that, because I already have all that stuff. Like I'll say to them, like, just so I know ahead of time, what day do you want your policy to start or your first payment? That way, it's a soft close while you're doing, the application. Then they'll tell me, oh, I need it to be the first of the month or the third of the month. I'm like, okay, great. We can totally do that. And then, just to keep the conversation going, I'll ask them, are you okay with that coming out on the first of every month? Or do you want to make sure it's, on the second or third? And then, they're like, oh, now that I think about it, I get paid on the first, so let's do the second, just make sure the money's there. Like, I'll ask questions like that. That way, I'm getting them prepared to get in, to give them the information, so that the way they know they're paying.
Yeah.
And then if there's ever, down on, if they tell me like, oh, I don't have any money right now, I don't get it till the first. I'm like, yeah, no, 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 don't worry about it. You're not paying anything today. I'm just putting a payment method on file. That way we can start it for next month or middle of next month, whichever day you want to start it, because you're ultimately in control. And they're like, oh, okay, thank you. Because 9 times out of 10, the people they're talking to, they're trying to push them to, pay right now. And so, you know, if they run into someone who, truly understands their situation, because all these people are on a fixed income, so they probably won't have the money right now. And I tell them like, hey, I mean, you're more than welcome to pay right now, but ultimately you're not paying anything today. We're just having everything start up for next month.
Yeah, bro. Dude, that's good. I appreciate you taking your time, man, for coming on here, dude. Uh keep keep going, keep crushing it. Tons of I guarantee tons of people are going to be seeing a ton of value from this, getting a lot from it. What would your I guess like as we close here, what's some of your like the best things that you've learned to be a great telesales life insurance agent?
I mean, that's a great question. You just really, if I want to lead people on this, you really just have to put your head down and and work your ass off, man. Like you have to like I said at the beginning, you just have to really control what you can control. And there are several things you can control. One, it's your effort. Two, it's your attitude. And then three, it's your effort. Really, it's what it comes down to: effort and attitude. And if you have the right, mindset and attitude that you really want to help people, and you have the right attitude, like, hey, I'm gonna dive into this and work as hard as possible, no matter what, if I'm gonna fail or not. Because the greatest teacher is failure.
Yep.
We've all failed at times. You're an absolute great agent. I've listened to your calls, I've listened to your podcasts, I've listened to your videos. Starting out, and this is for everyone, you don't start out great. I mean, you may have had the talent, but you put in the work, you put in the calls, you put in the time to listen back to your calls. And so you put your head down, you didn't focus on the outside noise. And so it's like athletes, Kobe, LeBron, they were born with talent, but they were getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and working their ass off when people
Dude,
weren't working.
100%.
And you have to truly just outwork others around you. And that's why I love working with Dave's team. Is we have several great people on our team, and iron sharpens iron. And that's the reason why I, truly soak up everything. That's why, I try to watch Dave's videos, try to watch your videos, I try to watch Cody's, soak up as much information as I could. That way, I'm sharpening my blade for whenever I go into the jungle.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And I think like the last thing I want to leave you guys with to really take from this and really take from Jay, the way he's been able to absolutely murder telesales, is he doesn't just take the information. He doesn't go and consume information. He actually executes. Like he actually goes out and does something with it. It's not just like this mental cycle that's like, oh, dude, I'm going to do something. I'm going to take this. I'm learning. I'm actually growing. But like, no, you're actually doing something about it, right? Like what you said is exactly right. For everybody like watching these, like that watches these videos, don't do anything about it. The greatest lesson is not going to be a YouTube video. The greatest lesson is going to be failure. Exactly what you said. And so, guys, go out and execute. Go out and actually take action because you have one life. You can choose to feel sorry for yourself, or you actually can go do something about it, which is absolutely huge. So, dude, where can people reach out and follow you on your journey?
Um, I'm not really I used to be big on social media, but not as much as anymore. I mean, if people, want to reach out to me, I'm on Twitter, at Jay Siskin, and that they can look me up on Facebook as well, and reach out to me. Or if if they're on Dave's school website, they can DM me there. But yeah, just reach out to me on those two platforms. And I want to leave them on this as well, that you mentioned failure. My first 2 weeks, I ended up with 13 total sales, but 6 days total, I had 0 sales. And
Jeez.
I didn't let that hamper me. So there's going to be days when you get 0. There's going to be days when you get 5, 6, 7. It's really a roller coaster. And those days where I had 0, failure was the greatest teacher. But the next day, I got back right on the road and started driving. Doesn't matter.
Let's go. If you guys haven't already, subscribed to the channel right now. Comment what you're going to take from this. Take action right now. There's no better time than the present. So I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.